Is there anyone you enjoy reading, aside from David Vettit?
Oh, I lots of people I enjoy reading. I when I'm writing in the not when I'm plotting, but when I'm writing in the middle of a novel, which is a big chunk of each year, I tend to read less SF and more mystery. So that's just because too close to home starts to act as interference in my head. And I read more nonfiction then, and then I will gorge on SF for a while. I think Charlie Strauss is writing some of the most inventive stuff out there. I think his strengths are his inventiveness and his pacing. I think his weakness are his characters. But still, I read him and enjoy him. There's just a ton of people. I think John Scalzi does good old-fashioned SF work that I enjoy. I read like I said, a lot of mystery writers. For moving a book along and making you compulsively turn pages, Lee Child, a mystery writer, is just amazing at it, and his sales show it. I mean, the guy sells hundreds of thousand hard copies plus. I mean, and I think that a number of the Bain folks, I don't want to be a Bain house commercial, but you know, David Weber has an amazing following and does intricate political stories, and if you like that kind of story, you're going to like him. Dave Drake does much more hard-boiled stories. John Ringo does these kind of wild adventures that just get up and go. And they've all, you know, Eric Flint with the 16XX series has tapped into a gold mine of reader response. I mean, you know, the readers are writing some of the books. So I think there are just a lot of good writers out there. It depends on what your taste is.
How do you see the future for science fiction? Since we've just touched on the reader involvement and such things.
Well, I think people will always want storytellers. I really do. I think that the need for storytelling is nearly as strong as the need for food and sex. Because, you know, you sit here in the world, and what you can know about the world, what you can absolutely know is that there are sets of rules that are kind of hard to discover. You can go to school and learn them faster, but if you're out on your own, you know, you're going to figure out gravity because you're not going to fly. But the world fundamentally doesn't make a lot of sense. And in our sort of desperate need for the world to make sense, which I think is something very human, we turn to stories. And stories also take us out of our own heads. They help us empathize with others. And so I think storytellers will always have a place. Whether the place is in books, online, I don't know. What I do know is this: the best storytellers will probably keep writing, but for a lot of people, you'll get a lot less of it if somebody isn't buying it. So somehow we're going to figure out how to reward those people. Right now, you know, I get an advance and then I turn in the book, and eventually I hope I get royalties, and you buy a copy, I get a little bit of money eventually, you know, through the publisher. And that system I'm not sure is going to persist. I love the physical objects that are books. You can tell walking through my house, I just adore books. I spend money on collector books, obscene amounts of money, to have books that are just beautiful to look at, that feel good and look good, but I'm in a minority taste there. I think the book as a physical object may well vanish, not soon, I don't think it'll be at all soon, but it may well ultimately vanish to be replaced, or not vanish, but diminish and be replaced largely by electronic things, but we're going to figure out a way to pay people. I'm confident of that, because otherwise they won't do their best work.
And finally, is there anything you would care to say to the troops and our other readers?
Yeah, I guess I would say this. I didn't serve, as I said. Through my time in the Young Marines, through my time as somebody who grew up an abused kid, I came to understand that sometimes for different reasons you do violent things and you pay a price. And I think that any of us who haven't served, and I put myself in this category, really can't understand everything that somebody who has served has gone through. But what I think we can do is recognize that it costs an enormous amount. Thank the people who are putting in the time, who are paying those prices, and most importantly, try to fashion a world that they can come home to that will have resources that will help as much as is possible. Dave came home to a world where people spit on veterans. And that was wrong. Dave wasn't for the Vietnam War. I wasn't for the Vietnam War. Dave's 10 years older than I am. He got drafted out of law school. The draft was canceled by Nixon, one of the few things he did I liked, about 3 weeks before I was due to repeat. My draft number was something like 9. So I was going, unless I have a shorter arm from a childhood injury. I was either getting 4F'd on this arm or I was going. And I wasn't happy about it, but I had made my peace that this is what a citizen does. I have heard people say they envy the Vietnam experience. I think those people are assholes. I think they're stupid, and I don't think they should say that. I don't envy that I didn't get to go. I appreciate what people in the armed forces are doing, and they aren't deciding whether we're in Iraq. They aren't deciding whether didn't decide whether we were in Vietnam. They are doing the job they were ordered to do as citizens, and they are paying prices that they will continue to pay for the rest of their lives. And so I think we owe them both our apologies for them having to do it and our thanks for them doing it.